This video is going to be a guide on replacing the fuel system in a 1983 Chevy K20 pickup truck. This truck has a 350 small block. As you can see, the transmission, exhaust, and other driveline components have been removed, so it's going to be a little easier for me to do that. So this truck is equipped from the factory with dual 20-gallon fuel tanks. So this truck's currently down with a blown transmission, so while I have everything apart, I'm getting some other projects done. First thing you're going to want to do is remove your gas cap and the two 3/8 screws that hold the filler neck to the bed. Now, depending what year your truck is, it could be different. This is the early 1980s style that just has two 3/8 screws. Alright, so I've already removed the fuel selector valve, which would sit right there and mounts with those two bolts through the top of the frame. There's also a bracket for the fuel lines. Now you're going to see 4 bolts here and 4 bolts here. Those are for your tank supports. Take those out, make sure to have a jack underneath. Now to replace the sending unit, you have a lock ring and there's a gasket underneath. All you need is a screwdriver and a hammer. You'll see tabs here, here, and there's one around the back. Line that up, hit it with a hammer, counterclockwise in the lock ring. You can remove the lock ring and the sending unit. For demonstration purposes, I'm just going to be putting the old sending unit back in. But when you're ready to put the new one in, make sure you install your new gasket. Clean the area first, then install your gasket. Sending unit goes in. There's a couple tabs to line it up. One here, one on the other side. Then you're ready to put your lock ring back on. This video was started mid-project. When I pulled the driver's side tank, I found a couple rust holes, and that tank was not worth fixing. So I picked up a new tank from a local auto parts store. I'm going to reuse the old brackets and the old tank straps. While they look rusty, they're still solid. Cleaned up the threads, anti-seized, reinstalled the filler neck and vent tube. Make sure you orient your hose clamps for future serviceability, whether the tank's in or out of the truck. For the tank straps, I used an 11/16 on my electric ratchet and just got them started. You don't want to tighten them all the way, because when you're reinstalling the tank, if you have to move these a little bit to get the holes lined up, you want to be able to do that. You're going to need a 9/16 when you put the tank back in for the screws to hold the brackets. Before I put the tank back in, I'm going to replace the soft lines that connect the tank to the crossover lines on the truck. One of them is 1/4 inch, one of them is 3/8. The 5/16 line for the evap system is missing on this truck, so we'll make sure to vent the tanks a different way. I've already cut 2 pieces to size, one 3/8 and one 1/4. You're going to need a pair of dikes, pliers, carb cleaner. I have a set of spring clamps there. Now, this driver's side tank's been inoperable for several years, so before I put it back in, I'm going to make sure to use carb cleaner and compressed air to clean out the lines. So I've got the tank most of the way up there. I connected my fuel lines, which unfortunately there's no easy way to do with the truck bed still on. I've got my wiring fished through. I've got the tank bolted back up, back and front. Did a final tightening on the tank strap. So now back to this side, we're going to get ready to reinstall the tank selector valve. Prior to doing so, you want to compare the old valve to the new valve. Make sure it's the same part. Now, some stuff you're going to need: a 1/2 wrench to reinstall the tank selector valve. I have some carb cleaner, electrical contact cleaner, anti-seize, and dielectric grease. I also have a couple different kinds of clamps, fuel line, a pair of pliers for the clamps, and then you're going to need something to cut the fuel line. Now the new tank selector valve is in. There's 2 bolts at the top of the frame where I'm pointing. All the lines are connected. Next thing we're going to replace is the tank selector switch located on the dash. Now, this truck is equipped with air conditioning, so you can't just reach underneath and grab it. Some people will say you have to take the vents out. That's not true. All you have to do, pop your ashtray open, take these 2 screws out. So with those 2 screws out, you can just move the ashtray to the side, and depending on what year your truck is, it'll either be held on with a clip or you'll be able to squeeze it. The original switch was held in with a clip. The aftermarket one's designed just to pop right back in the dash. Now, when I say there's 2 screws to hold the ashtray in, there's 2 on the top. It's supposed to be 2 at the bottom, but they're missing on this truck. We'll make sure to reinstall those. So with everything back together underneath the truck, we're in a function test of the tank selector valve, the fuel gauge, and the tank selector switch. So with your key on, We'll switch to the left tank, which I know is empty. See the gauge go down. And we'll switch to the right tank, which I know is about half. That concludes the video on our fuel system replacement. 2 new sending units, a new tank selector valve, new tank selector switch, cleaned up some of the wiring, and all new fuel lines. Thanks for watching.